If you're in Gaborone, the best place to get coffee, 100% is the daily grind. Don't skip out. The line is long, but it's so worth it. Hi there, I'm Joella, and today I'm going to talk about accommodation in Johannesburg for students. It sucks. No, really. The accommodation in South Africa, specifically in Johannesburg, when it's student accommodation, whenever you see that, honestly, run for the hills. So some backstory, I am a foreigner, so I've been living in student accommodation for I think 3 years, 4 years now, and I finally got to a place that I actually like, which isn't registered anywhere as saying student accommodation. It's just nice, affordable accommodation that is well enough and safe enough for a foreigner, first things first, and it's good enough for a student in terms of rent because it's not that expensive, and it's like, great, I get everything I've ever wanted. However, I have seen the bad, the good, and the pretty, and the ugly of student accommodation. I just want to share it with you. The title of the video is Student Accommodation in Johannesburg is Disgusting. Listen, Johannesburg as a city is amazing. I love it. It's beautiful. And I'm talking about Johannesburg because that's where I studied. And I feel like a lot of people end up studying in Joburg because there's WITS, there's Tux University, and UNISA, and like a lot of universities are there. I mean, I know Cape Town is the place called ECT, but Joburg, you know, that's where most of us are, let's be honest. So I just want to give you some clarity on like what to look out for with student accommodation. Let me help you, okay? Let me help you. Number one, you have to think about why do you need this accommodation, how desperate you might be. For me, I had just gotten my visa and I needed to go to school because I already missed 3 weeks of school, so I was really desperate for accommodation. I ended up getting accommodation at a place where, don't get me wrong, it was safe, it was right by campus, but the issue was they had so many rules that I feel like as an adult of 18 years old, and I stayed there until I was even in my 20s. Even at 20, like some of these rules didn't make sense to me. Like for example, there were rules like no alcohol, which I get. They explained it to me like, oh, it's for safety reasons. Students are getting, in danger. They're like in trouble. You don't want to get issues with their parents. But the reality is, if you're living away from your parents, surely you should have responsibility for yourself. But I'm sure that they have good reasons why those rules were there. But just to say, like, if you're really, really desperate and you'd put up with anything, then go for it. But I always recommend when you're looking for student accommodation, just check if it's really dingy rules, Two, I would say that it's best to keep looking. You never know what you're gonna find. And especially if you're desperate, this desperate person who wants accommodation right now, just take your time, look around, and I think you'll find something that really suits you. Because I went to the most obvious student accommodation right by campus, and I do wish I had gone to other places because other places allowed for me to have more freedom of movement and have more visitors coming over instead of having to sign in people and sign out people. It was just very boarding school kind of vibe. That's what it felt like boarding school. But then I don't think anyone can put up with that for too long. Most people that lived on that res did leave after like a year and then went to other places. But the issue I had going to other places outside of that place was that the rent increased so much. Like double, guys. Where I was, it was a bit cheaper. It was closer to 5,000 Rand, a little bit over. But then at the other places, which there was more freedom, of course, but there was a lot more responsibility with the space. And I don't know, for me, I felt a lot better with my 1-room apartment than having a roommate, 1. 2, having a bigger space. 3, having a lot more rent, because the rent doubled, but now you have a roommate. Now I'm not the type to share. And I don't know, that just didn't seem worth it for me. Something I didn't mention is that also with student accommodation, sometimes they'll be like, oh, it's holiday, you have to move out. What? Go home? So I have to fly home because I'm not allowed to pay rent for this month of holiday? Oh, come on. No, man, no. So holidays, you have to go? Didn't make sense. It doesn't make sense. I'm here all year. Of course I want to spend the holiday with my friends and enjoy my company and be in my own space. If you're like me, you just don't like sharing, then that's not really an option. I mean, some people, they did survive and they had really cool roommates that they could just like talk to and, could organize like, hey, I'm going to have friends over, is that okay? Blah, 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 blah. But I don't like having that issue. I like having neighbors. I'll ask my neighbors if they have a problem with the noise or whatever, but I really don't need time. I don't have time for a roommate, no. So definitely, you just need to check if it's worth your money. Like, I'm not going to pay 8,000 Rand per month for accommodation where, yes, I may have freedom of movement and there's no weird sign in, sign out nonsense, and I'm responsible for myself, but you end up having a roommate, and though it's a bigger space, you're still sharing that space. Now you have to be accountable for somebody else's actions because what, you guys are sharing the same apartment, and I can't. I want to decorate my apartment the way I want to decorate it. My only roommate will be my husband. Simple. Simple, I can't. A third thing to look out for is furnished or unfurnished. So at my accommodation, it was great. It was a bit cheaper because it was around the 5,000 and it was furnished. And by furnished, that meant like a bed, a desk, and a chair. I think 2 chairs and one little small table, which isn't really furnishing in my opinion. That's not really furnished, looking like a boarding school. But, you know, it was there for the needs it provided. Also, most people didn't stay there for long, aside from me, I did. So that's my own issue, mostly because I was just so safe and secure, and I was really afraid of living anywhere that isn't, you know, full of 24-hour security, and I was just okay there. I was safe, but I do regret not moving out and like trying somewhere else, because in the past year or so I've been like trying different places, and I'm like, there's some nice options out there, guys. Definitely check if it's furnished or not. If you honestly feel like you could furnish on your own, then definitely go for an unfurnished place instead of paying for that extra amount of money for furniture that you may not even like, to be honest. What else? A third option I feel like is to not bend your budget. I've talked to quite a few agents when it comes to like where to live, looking for a place to live, this is my budget, and then they'd always tell me that you have to increase your budget, you need like 8,000 Rand, above 6,000 Rand to find a nice place. And it was like, oh my gosh, like surely there has to be a place for me where I don't have to share, where I don't have to, and mind you, it's not just sharing with one roommate. Some places actually expected you to share with 6 other people and share a kitchen and a living room. I don't know, if you're desperate for accommodation, then I guess go for it. I have had friends who lived in such spaces, but for me, I would rather not. I can find somewhere else. I feel like you just stick to your budget. If your budget is, you know what, I want to pay 5,000 Rand every month for rent, and that's how much I can afford, I'm telling you, there will be somewhere that accommodates for that amount of money that you want to pay. Like there is somewhere. Don't listen. Sometimes it might be a bit further away from campus, I get that, but if you really, really want to be comfortable in your own space with your own hours, your own rules, no dingy rules like, oh, you can't do this, you can't do that, you can't do that. Like, no rules that don't make sense, you know, like, oh, no alcohol on the premise. I just turned 18, ma'am. I don't think that's fair. If you're like me, honestly, I suggest going on like Gumtree, going to Property 24. It seems like it's just for like buying houses and stuff. I'm telling you, that's where I found my place, and boy am I happy. Boy am I happy. Yeah, check these 2 out. Even ask friends, like, where do they live? Like, where do you live? Like, how much is the rent? Don't be too scared. Like, if you really like the place where your friend stays around, like, don't be afraid to ask, like, hey, what's it like? What are the benefits of living here? And then you see, have some options, especially in your first year of university. Because wherever you're staying right now in your first year, for most people, it's just like an in-between thing, like staying on res, for example. But, you know, if you want to go out without these rules, I recommend just like looking around, even when you're still on res, because you never know what you're going to find, and you might find something golden. So yeah. Overall, I would say that there are just a lot of places where it says student accommodation online for accommodation for us students, especially foreigners, which aren't great. And I honestly feel like they're exploiting us at times. Like, you can't expect me to pay 7,000 Rand and I'm still sharing with 6 people, or 5,000 Rand, 5,500 Rand, and we're away from campus and you still have these dingy rules for me. I just think some things are just so unacceptable, and I think it's way better not to even search the word student accommodation, but just search accommodation. Like, not even accommodation, just like apartments, just townhouse, something, cottages. Just search that. Don't search student accommodation. You'll find yourself in a pit of annoyance, distress, upsetness, disgust. Don't waste your time. If you're like me and you just want to be alone, have your own rules, no one hovering over you, no, oh my gosh, it's suspected that so and so has alcohol in their room, I'm gonna send the security. If you're like me, you don't want to share either, and you still want to pay an affordable amount of money, honestly, Just don't search student accommodation, because those people are there to exploit you because they know that you're desperate. Most of the time, they know you're desperate. So I just suggest looking around longer for an apartment close to campus. And if you can't be close to campus, but you're willing to sacrifice distance, being close for comfort, like me, that's the best thing ever. And let's be honest, we'll all eventually have a car, hopefully. And if you don't have a car, like me, then, you know, maybe get a cab guy, but that's too expensive. I know. Or you can organize with a friend who lives closer to you, and you can just pitch in for petrol for every month so that, you know, it makes sense to come and pick you up and whatnot, you know, or like pick you up on the way and stuff. So I just feel like if you're going to be schooling somewhere for 4 years plus, you might as well enjoy where you're living while you're doing your life there, you know? Also, I think it's important to pick an apartment that you feel like the rent you could handle after your parents are done paying your school fees and stuff. Like, it's like, oh, you know what, you're done. We're done paying school fees. We are, you know, you're an adult now, you have a job. Like, I'm not trying to stay somewhere, not to move out all over again. Already life is changing. I don't know if this is all good advice. I could be wrong. I could be right. I'm just telling you what I feel I would do, what I would tell myself if I could go back. That's my advice. It's not very coherent. I know. I just had this stroke of like upsetness 20 minutes ago before filming, saying to myself, oh my gosh, I wish someone told me about how to pay accommodation in Johannesburg for a student. Like, especially from a distance, because I was looking for my accommodation online. I couldn't even view these places because I couldn't. Like my family, we drive all the way to Joburg. We're here to do my administration stuff for school. The last thing on my mind is viewing houses. And also, it's on their timetable. When can they view the houses? When can these agents allow you to come and view? You know, like, and we only have so many days to be in the country because my parents have to work, my sisters have to go to school, and I have to go pack. Like, it's just harder, especially from a distance. So if you can, I don't know if you can, but if there's a way you can be in the city and maybe stay at a relative or something and you can view these places, that would be really great, so that you can even test it, because you don't want to end up in a place that you don't like, my friend, with no sunlight, carpeted floor. Nah, guys. Nah. So if it's from a distance, you really need to research. Don't be like me and just kind of go for the first thing that you see. Nah, take your time. In fact, even before you get accepted into the university, my guy, just check. Because the minute you're accepted, life gets so fast, my friend. Things are just... So it's better just to take the time to look. Okay, that's my advice to foreigners and also to like locals in South Africa. Honestly, this could be helpful too. But my focus on this video was for foreigners because, you know what, we don't have the luxuries a lot of the time to be doing the most, to really view or even know the areas. Because I went somewhere I don't even know. I've never heard of this place before. What? It's close to where? What is that place? Oh, it's fine. I'll get a cab. Someone will know. Like, it's just different with a foreigner because you really don't know where you're going most of the time. So yeah. I hope this was helpful. Thanks for watching. Let me know if this was helpful, because to me this feels a bit disorganized, but I hope you get what I'm saying. Like, just you get me, right? Okay, cool. Thank you for watching, and have a lovely day, and I'll see you next week. I hope. I'm trying to be consistent, guys.